Are the 49ers done with quarterback signings? Jeremy Fowler, deep in one of his stories, while he also wrote that Marcus Mariota is the name he keeps hearing the most for the Colts, that a weird little passage that Mariota could be a backup for the Niners and could start games for the Niners while they develop Trey Lance. Now, while that part of it sounds a little unbelievable, here is what I think relevant. Signing Nate Sudfeld doesn't lock the Niners into anything in terms of if they want to sign another quarterback. Sudfeld's making $2 million guaranteed. Trey's making 7.7. So in their quarterback room, and you always like to talk about it this way, in their quarterback room, the Niners have $9.7 million of quarterbacks. Does that, in your opinion, keep them from doing something else if they wanted to do something else, signing Marcus Mariota as an example?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if they sign Mariota for five, last year, remember, Mariota went from making 7.5 to 3. Feels like if you could get him for $3 million, I have no problem doing that. I do question if you got to spend 5-6 on Mariota, why would you give Sudfeld $2 million?
I know.
I think people question, like, Sudfeld has a lot of value with the coach. The offensive play caller, which has been Doug Peterson and Kyle Shanahan, love this guy. No one thinks he's a good player, but those guys value whatever the hell he brings. You and I have seen him at practice. If you didn't know anything about him, you would think he was just a camp arm or something. He's kind of a clumsy, tall. It doesn't really look the part, but the Niners value him, which to me, you just have, and you can never have enough quarterbacks. I would not feel comfortable with Nate Sudfeld as my backup quarterback. I would just not. Because a couple years ago, when Nate Sudfeld, I think, became famous, he was not the Eagles' backup, remember? They drafted Jalen Hurts, who was the backup. He was the third-string quarterback when they thought Doug was throwing that game, week 17. If you're going to be the third-string quarterback, I don't hate it, but, like, you got to pay your third-string quarterback $2 million? It's, again, we're nitpicking here. You want to spend $5 million on Mariota, like you said, that would be $13 million total. I'm bad at math. $14 million total in your quarterback room. It's nothing. I get it. But are you just kind of wasting $2 million?
Well, yeah. I mean, the counter would be, I'm not wasting $2 million if I think this guy is a big part of. I got Greasy in here. Now I got Sudfeld in here. I think he's important for Trey. Like that, to me, would be the number one way you justify it. I don't know if they do it that way, but that would be how you justify it. It's like, this is a $2 million investment in Trey Lance.
Do you remember when Bill O'Brien got the job, I think last year at Alabama, and Mac Jones was still staying there working out? He was teaching Bill O'Brien the offense. Like, there is something just like the Niners have had a lot of moving parts with coaching staff. Clearly this guy's really smart, Nate Sudfeld. I think he hangs his hat on being like, love him in the room, It's not crazy. So is there a $1 million extra? Like he's a $1 million player. Like that's just once you get 5th, 6th year in the league, quarterback. Like that's his value. Like that's just what he costs. The extra $1 million for just your comfort level, knowing that like I got to do other shit. You stay with Greasy. You guys get on the same page. You and what's that guy's name? Bobby Slowick. Some of these up and coming next McDaniels and LaFleur. I get it, but that has to be the explanation. Not do you think he's a good player? Because he's not a good player. If that's your explanation, I'm cool with it. Outside theory just hit me. Could Kyle be groomed? Is Sudfeld going to be like Kyle's run game coordinator in 4 years? Don't hate that theory either.
And it's just part of like, hey, I'm starting to lose coaches here on offense. Let's just keep this guy close. Eventually, he's going to be the run game coordinator for Trey, or he'll be Trey's. Maybe not.
People think very, very highly of this guy. Like I know the type guy Doug likes. Right when he was in Philly or Howie, like they value this guy's intelligence and stuff. Like he does bring something to the table. It just feels like paying $1 million for it seems a little nuts.
Shills on the stream says
1.5.
Sudfeld Lance is the worst QB tandem in football.
It's not great on paper.
You're right. Was somebody else making him the backup for 1.5?
Well, I think they had to tender him, and then they just signed him, so they didn't have to worry about it. Again, we'll see. The more and more I talk about this, I think you have to get help. Trubisky, can you get a $3-4 million guy also in the room that can play?
Is Mariota going to only cost $4 million? That's the other part.
Remember, we thought it was nuts. He took $3 million last year, 2.5. That's
true. We did think that was nuts.
Are we sure that Trubisky has this huge market that Adam Schefter, who I like, is trying to make? Maybe there's no market there for him.
What number would surprise you on Trubisky? Or would seem
3? He made 3. What changed?
So him making 5, like him getting a raise, you're saying is what?
No, but I can pay. Okay, Trubisky. Inflation. This cap's gone up $5 million. I could do that.
Okay, but 7 would you go? Wait, why?
Well, then we start getting in numbers like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, especially like you can't pay him $7 to be the backup on a team that has a good quarterback. So he's going to be a starter.
Okay, if like the Giants, who have been reported, they want him to compete, Dayball knows him, with Daniel Jones, they gave him like $9-10 million. Daniel Jones, a top 6 pick, he doesn't make that. I could see that, right? So it's like, yeah, he might be our starter, he might be on our backup. I got the guy for triple what he just made.